Brandon Curry robbed in Orlando. Welcome back to another edition of This Week in Bodybuilding, hosted by yours truly, Christian Duqeu, right here at StrengthAddicts and all StrengthAddicts platforms, brought to you courtesy of Titan Medical for all your great therapies like TRT, Nectar of the Gods, Titan Complete, and the brand new ECA Plus stack that's got the whole fitness industry talking. Guys, the 2021 Mr. Olympia will go down in history as one of the most controversial. But let's get started. The prejudging. What can I say about the prejudging? Bodybuilding shows are decided in the prejudging. There's a prejudging round and then there's the finals. And the rounds are not equal. They have never been equal. Prejudging is where you decide the winner. The night show, the finals, whatever you want to call it, is for the fans. Okay? That's where the routines are at. That's where the audience is packed. That's where the pay-per-view goes nuts. It's for the fans. Prejudging is where the show is decided. Now, in the prejudging, every commentator said Big Ramy was holding water. Every commentator said Big Ramy was nowhere near as good this year as he was last year. Okay, that's point number one. We're going to have more than 1 point because, prejudging was decided by 1 point. Anyways, Brandon and Abdullah did an amazing job. Brandon brought up his wheels. Brandon has made a progression from 2017 to 2018 to 2019 to 2020 to 2021. It's a progression that is irrefutable. So Brandon comes in shredded. He had a smaller waist than Ramy. He had better abs than Ramy. Okay, he's always had better aesthetics than Ramy. And it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that the only pose that I would say that Ramy really dominated was a side chest, which is his pose. But it's crazy to me that every commentator said that Big Ramy was holding hella ton of water and that Brandon was shredded and symmetrical and proportioned and came in ready for the competition, but that Big Ramy led the prejudging by a point. It's crazy to me that as Brandon posed more, he got harder, and as Ramy posed more, he looked more bloated, but Ramy won the prejudging by a point. It's crazy to me that the prejudging scores were not released after the prejudging. It's crazy to me that here we are, okay, looking at a sport that's subjective, looking at a sport that should be about improvements, that should be about being the best in the world. Brandon listened to the judges, did everything the judges said. Ramy made no improvements. Like I said, people said that he looked not as good this year as he did last year. Okay? And last year, why did he win? He won because he brought ultra shredded condition. Because if you put Ramy with size next to Brandon with aesthetics, it's really an apples and oranges kind of fight. I'll give you that. But if he's not as shredded, if he's holding water, that's a big, big point that we just cannot digress from. It's not that he wasn't conditioned. It's that he was holding water. Everybody said he was holding water. Now then, everybody later said, we'll get to the finals. If he was in fact holding water, he cannot win the title. He cannot successfully defend the title against guys who are unarguably shredded, conditioned, symmetrical like Brandon and like Hadi. And Nick Walker was also shredded and conditioned, and he took 5th. But we'll talk about that in a second. Hunter Labrada, I love you, my man. I interviewed you when you went pro at 2018 Nationals. You're an awesome kid, fantastic, but you too were bloated. How you got ahead of Ian Villier, I have no idea. How you got ahead of Nick Walker, I have no idea. How you got ahead of William Bonac, I have no idea. I have no idea how you got 4th. But it was Christmas in Orlando for you, and it was Christmas in Orlando for Ramy. But the point is, Big Ramy leads by a point. Okay, fine. Then comes the night show. The finals, excuse me, because it's a 2-day show. Now, yes, for the finals, he looked a lot better than he did for the prejudging. Did Brandon look worse for the finals than he did for the prejudging? No. Brandon looked great. And I would have given the finals to Brandon as well. I said as well, because I would have given him the prejudging and the night show, the finals, whatever you want to call it. But the point is that for the finals, there was like a 4-5 point gap between Brandon and Ramy. That's bullshit. I mean, that makes no sense at all in my mind. No sense at all. So, look, guys, the bottom line is that you can be a Ramy fan and you could be a Brandon fan, but things don't make sense, guys. Things don't make sense. And, you know, I've heard some things from some reliable sources that will stay with me, you know, but think about this. If I know these things, what's to say you're not going to know these things? I'm not going to take credit. I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to report it. But what I will say is that this decision in Orlando, Florida, was a travesty. This decision has put bodybuilding back 20 years. This decision cannot be defended by any serious person. Now, you can be a fanboy, a fangirl, that's fine. But you cannot tell me that a defending champion, who every single pundit, RX Muscle, Evolution, myself, everybody noted, I'm sure Desktop, I'm sure Nick Strength, I'm sure everybody noted, it was so obvious that Big Ramy was holding water. So obvious. And it's also obvious that he made no improvements. Please tell me, Big Ramy fans, the Egyptian group. Tell me, what did Ramy improve on from last year? How was Ramy better than he was last year? Because everybody is saying that Brandon was better than he was last year. Everybody. Not a single person has said, oh yeah, Brandon dropped the ball. Brandon wasn't as good. Brandon wasn't. No, nobody has said that. Nobody. So anyways, you know, it's a disservice to the sport. It's a disservice to the sport. I know the Egyptian group is happy. The Egyptian group, you guys are happy. What I mean by the Egyptian group is Egypt. You know, all the people in Egypt. The 400,000 or 500,000 bodybuilding fans in Egypt. I don't know how many fans there are, you know, maybe there's more. In America, we've got millions. I know that for sure. But it's interesting. And the other thing that's interesting that I'm going to talk about in an upcoming Strength Addicts video that I was not aware of is the deep-seated rivalry between Egypt and Kuwait. To me, that's nonsensical. What kind of rivalry could they be? They're on different continents. They don't share borders. I didn't know they had a rivalry, but apparently in bodybuilding they do. And we'll talk about that in another video. But for now, guys, Brandon Curry got robbed in Orlando. Brandon Curry is the uncrowned 2021 Mr. Olympia. In my book, he won the Mr. Olympia. I don't care about the scorecards. I would use those scorecards as toilet paper, if you asked me. But I love bodybuilding. It's a sport where we're allowed to be passionate. It's a sport where we're allowed to disagree. It's a sport where we can argue for years and decades, as people often do on the message boards. And this will be one of those years. This year will go down with 1997. It will go down with 2001. It will go down with 2007. But it may even be more so than those past years because of how blatant of a robbery this was. But again, it's a subjective sport. And so, you know, it's a panel of judges that see things a certain way. I see things a different way. Then you may see things a completely different way than me and them. And that's fine. And that's the beauty of our sport. We can argue till the cows come home. And even though I may have come across some information that hit my desk, I will not report it. And you will never hear me talk about it because, it's not for me to talk about. But what's interesting, though, is that if I know about it, I'm a little tiny fish in a giant bodybuilding ocean. you may come across it as well, and you may want to talk about it, but I will not. And for that reason alone, I will say this was one hell of a memorable Olympia. And my flight, Southwest Airlines, apparently I came to find out a lot of the pilots don't want to get the vax. And so they've been doing sick outs. And of course, Southwest told us at Louisville, after they delayed the flight 4 times on Friday, that it was because of weather. Weather was terrible in Tampa, so the planes couldn't get to Louisville, and then the planes couldn't go to Louisville to Orlando because the weather was so terrible, and everybody in Orlando was like, what are you talking about? There's no bad weather. But that's because Southwest Airlines didn't want to do more than simply refund us the ticket, like maybe put us on another flight or give us some whatever. They didn't want to do that, so they blamed it on the weather. So Southwest Airlines, I came to find out yesterday, canceled 1,000 flights, or 27% of their flights, as a result of these various different factors. I don't anticipate Southwest Airlines will be in business much longer. I don't think they should. I will never use them again because, that's just garbage. If I would have gone on American or Delta or Spirit or Allegiant, I would have made the trip and I would have been there. But then, you know what? Sometimes fate is a good thing. Maybe it's God watching over me. I don't know. But to go down to Orlando, Florida, to see Big Ramy looking like a pile of shit, beating Brandon Curry, my guy, my champion, who made improvements, who was shredded, who was symmetrical, who did his job, would have broken my heart. So maybe, sometimes life has a funny way of working out. And maybe this time it worked out in my favor. Who knows? I didn't have to see it. And I fell asleep for the decision. I woke up the next day all groggy. I had to see what happened. And I saw what happened. So I'm kind of glad I slept through it as well. You know what I mean? Because if I'd have been in Orlando, I'd have had to hold my nose and bite my tongue and stare down at my shoes and not said what I'm saying here now. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching This Week in Bodybuilding, brought to courtesy of Titan Medical here at StrengthAddicts and all StrengthAddicts platforms. I hope to see a lot of discussions on this video, whether on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or wherever the hell you see this video. Peace out, bye.